right, cool.
All right. Well, obviously there's a lot that you can speak to, and so
I got a funny story about. We're asking about how I got into it. My dad, uh, when my mom was pregnant with me, my dad wanted to try out kung fu lessons, right? So he calls this school, like a local school, and he asked to talk to the teacher. And a woman answered. He asked to talk to the teacher, and she said, "Oh, he's in jail right now." And my dad asked what he was in jail for, and I guess he was at a bar and some guy tried to start a fight with him, and he kicked him in the head and killed him. So my dad was like, "Oh hell no!" He never like bothered trying it ever again. That kind of scared him off. And he told me that story. I thought it was kind of funny.
isn't that kind of what you want, though? You want to be taught by somebody who knows what they're doing.
Oh yeah, of course. But if somebody's kicking someone in the head at a bar and killing them, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. It kind of shows that they don't have restraint.
Or they don't have any control. Because there's a point, in your training where you get really cocky and you feel like oh, I can move. Oh, I know how to spar. I'm not afraid to keep swinging at me. I can hit hard. I can kick hard. But they don't realize, just how hard, the idea of especially high-level Japanese martial arts is realizing that the human body is frail. It's understanding the beauty of life. That's where they get the concept of the life-giving sword. You realize that humans are like flowers in the wind, and it's beautiful, but it can be destroyed just by a gust. So by realizing that you can attain peace, but somewhere in between there, you reach this kind of adolescence where you want to beat people up or fight or whatever. I don't know. You're just like excited about it, I guess, but you don't have that kind of control, and like you said, restraint. And you wanna try things out. It's like learning to walk, kind of. You want to go out and do it.
So it's like you
So
learn something new, and you're just eager to go apply it in real life the first chance you
yeah,
get.
exactly. And after you just need your ass beat, a few times to really kind of understand the gist of it, and like, hey, this actually isn't an action movie. This is real life. And also, if you get in a fight, you both go to jail, right?
I think that's. No, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yes. You both get charged with assault.
Really? So even if you're defending yourself, you're still liable for assault?
No, if a person, like for instance, a guy attacked you with a baton, one of those telescoping batons, right? I defended myself, and I I must have. He broke two of my fingers with the baton because I caught it twice. I caught it at the base because I was trying to get his wrist. I was trying to trap him, and a couple times I couldn't get all the way in, so I had to stop it at the base. That's why it snapped my finger, and it gave me a hairline fracture in the same finger. But I didn't hit him one time. Didn't hit him at all. All I did was block everything he had, and I trapped him a couple times. Got him by the forearm, held it, let go, looked at him, and let him come at me some more. And I just kept, he was. I've been doing it for a while, and I've worked at bars and stuff. And this guy was like a 12-year-old. There was no reason for me to hit him. I didn't have a reason to. So I just blocked everything he had, and he finally he stepped back and just stopped swinging because he just wasn't connecting at all, nothing. And he looked at me, and I gave him those eyes and smiled at him, and I said, "Give me some more." And he stepped back, fell on his ass, dropped it. I ran up, grabbed it, turned around, and ran out in the street, almost got hit by a car, ran off. And then he called the cops on himself. and there was like 25 people watching, and he called the cops. He was carrying like a dumbass, and he said that I tried to attack him or whatever. And cops at first were saying, well, there's no one that saw anything, and then a bunch of people, because nobody wanted to snitch. And then a couple people raised their hand and said, oh, I saw it, he didn't hit him. The dude attacked him with the baton, and he was just trying to defend himself. So they gave me a flyer, like a victim's flyer. I guess it shows me victims' rights, because I became the victim, because they took a picture of my hand. And then I immediately went into the ER and they x-rayed it. And so I had visible, they had the eyewitness testimony, and then I had visible injuries, and he was, fine.
Like unscathed?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't touch it. I could have snapped his arms like 10 times. Could have tossed him out in the street. I could have done all kinds of stuff. And in my head, I was just tearing him apart, but it was just, yeah. And it was so funny because I was walking up to get my girlfriend because she was talking shit, and I walked to get her, and the dude just whips out the baton and opens it like some kind of badass. And as soon as he did that, I just charged him full force. I didn't even take a second look, because the training kicks in. After you do it for so long, somebody coming at you with even if it's a wooden, something wooden, it's just the movement and the intent. You get so used to it that when someone actually has it, the training kicks in, and you just kind of, it's kind of automatic.
So that brings a couple of questions to mind. First off, you said you sensed his intent. Was that what kind of, they have that flight or fight reaction? Sounds like.
Yeah, it's when you get that fight or flight adrenaline rush, all kinds of weird things happen. You get this thing called adrenaline lock. A lot of cops if they get shot or something, they'll find them dead, and they still have the person's ID clutched in their hands because they were locked. So usually if you have a weapon or something, for that first couple seconds when you get that adrenaline rush, you're not going to be able to let go of that thing. You're not going to even think about it, really. Everything kind of slows down. Like, things slow down, and I don't know if you've ever experienced being in the zone. I'm sure you have with dodgeball. If you have like multiple balls flying at you and you've been like going, you kind of, things sort of slow down. I don't know any other way to say it. It's like you kind of like know everything that's going on around you, and I don't know. I remember when I was young, when I got beat up, all it was fear. My whole body locked up with fear, and I either locked up or I ran away. And, after years of training, the training kicks in, and I'm used to feeling that intent, and, I'm not, and also the meditation and using, in Hagakure, that's Hidden Among Leaves, the book by Tsunetomo Hideyoshi. He says every night a warrior should imagine himself dying in every way possible. Being torn to shreds by the wind, being cut in half, being executed, being burnt to death, drowning, being strangled. Everything you can think of. Every night you should imagine this. And I don't do that every night because that's just fucking horrible.
Yeah,
like,
it's a little. It's not light reading.
You meditate with that. You should do it like, if you're training, you should make that part of the regimen, because you have to erase your fear of death. Because in that moment, you have to be willing to just throw your life away. Just, because it all happens in a couple seconds.
Right, and if you've already kind of preconditioned yourself to that situation, it's not so much of a unexpected happening. You kind of have an idea of, okay, I know I'm supposed to do X, Y, Z as a reaction.
Yeah.
See how that kind of mentally prepares you for it.
It's kind of like, have you ever written poetry before? This is I don't know, this is kind of a stupid thing I'm comparing it to, but you've written poetry, right? Or maybe you haven't, I don't know. Yes or no?
I wouldn't say I'm a huge poetry fan.
Let me think for a second. Okay, the concept of the couple seconds, having a couple seconds. During Edo period Japan, first during Sengoku Jidai, the Warring States period, samurai were like paid athletes. They wore heavy armor. Yariashi wore armor that was made out of hardened paper, and the higher ranked samurai wore the fancy regalia and the heavy armor. So you had to know where you were putting the sword. Like you would attack places like between the face mask and the lapel of the armor. Or a really popular place was the left armpit, because you could get to the heart through that way, or the inner part of the thigh between the two skirted plates of armor on the legs. But during the Edo period, the samurai didn't need to wear armor anymore. They wore their plain clothes, but they still carried around 3-foot razor blades with them, and they were eager to show off their talent or whatever, and that's where you had this several second throw your life away kind of thing. Have you ever seen fencing before?
European fencing or kendo?
Yeah, you see how it only takes like a second for them to score? They just basically stand there and mind fuck each other.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how much mental is part of it. It's not just swinging your sword around like Hollywood would show you.
Yeah, you're basically trying to juke each other out, get you to drop your guard, or move your guard in a way that is going to work so you can score, or you can get your kill. So that's where that mind state kind of comes from.
So let's go back to, you said your training has helped you develop this sense where you can kind of determine if somebody's actually legit means you harm. And not only that, but you also practice that restraint that one sensei or sifu or whatever obviously didn't practice when he kicked that dude in the head and killed him.
Mm-hmm.
How many years have you trained, just cumulatively?
How many years have I trained?
Yeah, let's start there.
Actual classical, training, going to a class with a teacher, and doing the techniques over and over and over again, falling down, getting up, doing the technique, falling down, getting up, and having it done to you over and over again. I did that for, I started when I was about 12, and I did it, I don't know, I stopped officially doing it around the time we stopped doing Aikido. How old were we?
Oh man, that was 2004.
Well, I was like 26, something like that. So that's 15 years of that kind of official training, and then I went out, and of course I became an addict. Got strung out, ended up homeless, and I got in a lot of fights. Actually, they weren't fights. It was more like just trying to save my ass, or somebody trying to steal from me. See, the thing is, in real life, you're not in a ring. You get in these really weird situations, and you don't know a lot of the time. You don't know what to do. you don't know how to react in a way that's not going to land your ass in jail. Because I mean, you can't just beat the shit out of the dude because your ass is gonna fucking get a charge. So you've got to figure out some way to neutralize this situation without you getting a charge put on you. So it's the mind state of a true martial artist is about neutralization, doing it efficiently, quickly, and actually causing the least damage possible. I mean, that's as far as survival is concerned in this day and age. That's what you need to do. So yeah, I basically got tested out there for 2 years, and from that point, I was strung out for like 7 or 8 years, and then I got clean. And through that process, even though I was destroying my body, my mind was, man, it was everywhere. I'd lay in the park and stare at the sky, and I would just go through all the techniques I knew, every single one, and it would take me hours, or at least an hour, to go through all of them, and I'd fall asleep every night going through them. And whenever I got the chance, I'd constantly go through them, and it was kind of this call it soft training, or applied training, where I would apply these techniques to like real life. Shit like if you drop something, catching it, you can actually use parts of techniques to do stuff like that. Catching a fall, catching someone else who's falling. Hell, in basketball you can use techniques. Really, you can use them for lots of stuff other than what you're training for.
So really, the training never really stops. It's just you have the formal, traditional, the dojo or studio training under the supposed master, and then you have your real world application as a bouncer, as you were.
Oh yeah, the bouncing. I forgot about that. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, and then I bounced for let me see. I bounced for like 5 years. I worked at Tens, TD's West, Surly Wench, the North on 4th, and Plush.
Not to mention you're also a stuntman, right, in movie studios?
Yeah, I did that. I did that for about a year, and I decided it wasn't for me, and I was going to quit. And around the time I quit, I did a fall off the damn roof, and I shattered one of my vertebrae. Not completely, I just shattered part of it. And I quit that, and I kept pushing myself in training until I couldn't walk anymore, and I had to have surgery. And then when I got the surgery, I ended up getting MRSA from having the surgery, and I almost died. I had that a couple times, and they put a PICC line in and gave me Dilaudid directly into my heart, and I got addicted to the Dilaudid because they prescribed that to me, and I was crushing up the pills and shooting them up. So that was kind of my fall from grace. After I hurt myself doing the stunt stuff and the surgery. And it strangely, like, my training evolved into this weird. I don't think it's not normal. What I went through is not normal, but I'm not exactly a normal person. So, but I think generally the gist is, if you're a martial artist, you're gonna go through that kind of thing. That's my guess, because from all the stories I've read, that sort of thing is what they did. They travel. Actually, there's a name for it. It's called Musha Shugyo, which is the warrior's journey in Japanese. And I never planned on doing it. And it was not fun. It was dirty, and I was sick every day. Sometimes I had to get in scuffles while sick, and it's there's nothing glamorous about any of it, really. But you learn if you let yourself. If you don't want to learn, you're not going to learn. But that's just being stupid. You can't learn, you're dumb. But Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds
But
like it's been a crazy experience, and I was going to point out something about the warrior's journey when you said you fell from grace, because usually it's when people fall that they have to climb right back up, and it's that climb, it's that journey where all the trials and tribulations are thrown at you, and you know the better people come out better for it. They use that as an opportunity to grow, and the other ones play victim and don't go anywhere. And you take somebody who is training at a chain, a franchise studio or dojo, and they might learn some really cool looking techniques. They might get a pretty assortment of belts, but they're never going to get the actual real world application that you've gone through. So when you are getting assaulted by some crazy dude with a telescoping baton, you got to walk away from that. Granted, you got some hairline fractures on your fingers, but you didn't. Again, you got to walk away, and that's another thing that the movies don't show you. It's real world fighting is sloppy. It's not balanced. It's not. You're not prepared for it. Most people get knocked out.
No, it is. It's pure chaos. It's just chaos. Plus the adrenaline and not knowing what's coming next. And also, like I said, you have to work within the lines to not go to jail. You know what I mean?
That too. Whereas, Steven Seagal could break everybody's wrist over and over again, not have to worry about going to jail. Jean-Claude Van Damme, same thing. And I don't even know who's considered a martial arts superstar nowadays. But
he was for a while. Now he's like the biggest joke in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
At least that's what he's known as.
But that was during a time when you can get away with anything. Like, there's nothing stopping me back then to saying I'm a ninja master and I've trained from a lineage of 35 grandmasters and I'm going to charge all kinds of money, and there's no way to check that. But now, with the advent of MMA and just how people have wisened up and the internet, you can kind of sense out the jokesters from the legit people. But even then, an MMA fighter is training. They have a set date, they have a set location, they have set rules that they got to follow, and the fight is just entertainment at that point. Whereas real world, you might get punched in the back of the head and you're out before you even knew you were in a fight to begin with.
Yeah. And the MMA fighter is not going to go to a bar and get in a fight because they can't risk that. They've got they have a what's it called? They have a prize to win. They've got and they have, their managers and everybody counting on them, so they can't do some stupid shit while they're drunk.
Right.
They have to have restraint.
Well, at least the better ones do. The thugs are there just to fight, don't last, and they get squeezed out, I'm sure. But that's completely different. It's realistic fighting, but it's not real world fighting. And I think you actually have real world fighting experience. I'd be a fool to say not. And then
I mean, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's badass, but when you're doing it on blacktop with broken glass, you're not going to be wanting to swivel around on your back.
Yeah. There's some things that you just have to, that you won't be ready for, and you have to accept that fact.
Now, you'd be amazed how much a 2-inch pebble hurts when you lay on it. Put all your weight on it.
It's not comfortable, I imagine. I mean, with my army stuff, I've slept on rocks before, and I've had some falls here and there, and it's not the most exciting place to be.
Oh yeah, I bet you've been through way worse than I have. The gas and stuff, and I mean, for me, the way I see it, because that kind of discipline, maybe at one time I could do that, but now it's like I could not. I'm not mentally stable enough for that. Maybe it's just a totally different thing. I don't know. I've never experienced it.
I mean, they ease you into it. I mean, I've been gassed 3 times, so by the 3rd time I was like, let's just get this over with. Mm-hmm. And it's just another form of discipline. I mean, they train you. You go through the motions. You go through the rehearsals. And I wanted to bring that up when you mentioned the Hagakude and what you would do at night. You'd go through every single technique. What the military trains you to do is go through these things called rehearsals, where we have a mission. We're going to go do a specific function of that mission, but we're going to rehearse mentally. We're going to walk through it. We're going to talk through it, and they just want you to think about all the potential outcomes that can happen.
They have you go through the ideal situation, right? Is that, or do they have you like you're trying to think of like worst case scenario?
A little bit of both. So you obviously have the ideal situation. That's what gets put on paper, but then you have the real world, which, I mean, the second you step off for that mission, everything's going to go to shit. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong, and so they teach you how to be flexible. And if you already thought about,
go ahead.
If you already thought about like, what would I do in this case? What would I do in that case? Or if you just have the mentality to know that I'll be flexible regardless if this does not go to plan, you'll come out better for it, and that's what they train you for. But that's what that rehearsal is for. So yeah, we're not imagining what it will feel like if the wind scattered us apart or if we get executed. But we're imagining, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? It's not being paranoid. It's being prepared.
Yeah, exactly. That's right on. That's right, spot on. I like to think of techniques like Waza. I like to think of them as math problems. You know, when you're in math class, everybody gets bored. They see the equations and they're like, well, when are we ever going to use this? This isn't realistic. You know, I'm not going to do calculus, blah, blah, blah. And then you get like an engineering job or something and a problem comes up. Say you need to like, adjust the lens so that the laser refracts off it properly. And you end up doing this applied math it's not something off of a chalkboard, but it's like messy math, I guess, or critical problem solving math, that kind of thing. So it's sort of, I don't know, that comparison just clicks for me for some reason.
It's like you said, it's not textbook, it's messy, but you figure out, oh, this is why we did those things. And
yeah, you have the tools there. You know, and that's what the techniques are for. That's why they're so grandiose and like, you know, a lot of people say in taijutsu it's the art of sticking your arm out and having the other person beat the shit out of you. You know, the reason they're sticking their arm out is, first of all, they're just trying to teach you intent, having a fist fly at your face. Just the act of having someone try to hit you that's a lesson in itself. Just feeling the guy actually try and hit you as opposed to stopping short, because those are two totally different things. And it also trains you, when you're the uke, the attacker, to actually try to hit someone instead of stopping short. And in Taekwondo, they'll stop short a lot, and that's not good. At least the Taekwondo in chains, McDojos.
Well, you would even naturally will move your fist away from the person because you just, for some reason, instinctually, you don't want to connect. Like hey, I'll help you along the way. Yeah, unless you're a sadist or something.
Right. Unless you're sadist. And then the reason they stick their arm out is because you're trying to learn how the human joints work. You know, how the arm moves and, you know, what ways it can go, what ways it can't go. And you also learn, like, how a person will resist and how to use that resistance against them, how to get them to reverse the resistance so the resistance becomes them twisting their own arm, that kind of thing. Yeah. So that's that. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I don't mean to... Well, the military does this, but I just wanted to bring up another point, and that's the military believes in crawl, walk, run. And so it's exactly that. You know, before we show you how to shoot a rifle, we're going to let you hold a dummy one, just so you get the idea of what holding an actual weapon feels like. And then we're going to show you to never point it at something that you don't intend to kill, so that way you slowly start to build that respect for the weapon. But you understand, the only reason why muscle memory will have me lift this thing up from below ready is because I'm going to shoot somebody. And then you just go through this gradual progression until you're actually running with a loaded weapon and firing at targets with live ammunition. And
Let me just make a point. We were talking about holding a firearm and never point at something unless you plan on shooting it. The same kind of thing goes for a blade, a bleeder, a knife. I call them bleeders. You don't pull that thing out unless you're going to cut somebody. People that pull it out and think that they're just going to wave it around and scare somebody, they're asking for a nightmare. Because, I mean, well, as far as I'm concerned, if you pull that knife out, you're trying to kill me, which means that knife is going in your throat. But, you know, you could have it taken away from you, like I just said. You could end up stabbing yourself in a tussle. You know, you're trying to pull it away from him, and he lets go, and you yank it towards yourself. Actually, that happened to my friend. He stabbed himself in the arm. Or shoulder. He was pulling back, and I grabbed his arm real quick, and he yanked back, and I let go, and it dug into his arm about an inch. Yeah, so same goes for a bleeder. Don't pull that thing out unless you're planning on stabbing someone or getting cut. But anyway, go ahead.
no, it's all about that intent. And so yeah, you know, taijutsu, the art of holding your arm out while somebody beats the crap out of you, is that. I'm just kind of adding to that argument there with you, is that, yeah, you need to understand, okay, this is what it looks like when somebody's actually throwing a fist at me. They're going to do it slow, it's going to be painstaking, it's going to be deliberate, but it's for a reason. And then as you progress and as you understand what to do, where to move, and how just shifting your weight a certain way, you can dodge that punch without getting all crazy, without burning all this excess energy and whatnot. It's actually a great way to teach somebody who has never had that kind of physical interaction with another body. It's a great way to get you started. At what point, though, did you make the leap from taking this very traditional, very slow crawl / walk phase to running, to where you're just basically, not saying you're getting in fights on purpose, but where you're able to take care of yourself?
It's sink or swim. Sink or swim. You're gonna get into some messy situations at first. I kind of got introduced to using it when I was working as a bouncer, so it was kind of controlled. I had help, you know, things were in my favor. I wasn't trying to hit anyone. I was trying to, you know, first of all, you try to be people's friends. You know, I'd give them water, give them an hour or half an hour, you know, to go, so they could sober up a little bit. It's only if they acted like a dick, they try to sexually assault a girl or hit her, or they try to stick their hand in the tip jar. You never stick your hand in the tip jar. Those three things will get you, you know, choked out and thrown out. Or you get in a fight, of course.
Right.
So, you know, I got introduced to that. And then, you know, when I was homeless, that's when things got more, it turned gray and murky and more nightmarish, like, because, oh shit, like, you don't know where the lines are, and now there's nothing in your favor. You're a piece of shit because you're a homeless junkie, and the other dude's a piece of shit. And yeah, so you've got to try to make things look as good for you as you can, and, you know, it's not necessarily gonna work out for you, and it might. At first, there's no way to know. It's sink or swim, really. You've gotta, that's when you gotta take everything you know and you gotta make the plunge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of it finds you kind of situation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you know, you trying to use a firearm and you put it away, you know, because you don't want to have to use it. It's for protection. You know, it's not to go out and fucking commit mass murder. Although, never mind.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to go into the, I don't know what the word is, I don't want to say mystical or magical or metaphysical or esoteric maybe. When did you start transitioning from just training your body to training your mind and, for lack of better words, your spirit? When did that start to enter the picture?
Are you talking about like when did I get introduced to meditation and just flat like metaphysical stuff as far as like remote trying to do remote viewing, that sort of stuff? Are you talking about flat out occult?
Um, I guess the very beginning. So if
Um,
there's like a singularity where it happened,
Zen meditation.
Zen meditation.
That's the first thing I learned.
So
The
that's the
same
gateway
thing I
drug.
taught you. It's how to sit in seiza. How to sit in seiza. How to hold Zen of the first Kujin you learn,
Right.
and having that point. They say to focus on a single point 2 inches in front of your. Well, it's in front of your face, but what I eventually made the connection that what they're actually talking about is your third eye, which is on about an inch up above your eyes, on your forehead. You focus on the point there, and you let all your thoughts just melt out of your head. I had trouble with this because I have racing thoughts. I have problems with racing thoughts. What you have to do is you have to let the thoughts happen. Just let them happen, and don't make any comments on them or anything. Just let them happen and happen and happen, and just observe. Totally neutral. Just be a watcher, and eventually the thoughts will kind of drain out of your head, and then you can just hear. Like all of a sudden the wind will get super loud and you can hear the grass moving, and it's kind of crazy. It's a weird feeling, and when you first feel it, it's like holy shit, and like you kind of just stay there. And when I first felt that, I started smiling, and that kind of pulled me in right there. I remember the smell of flowers. It was during spring at the U of A. I was training at the Yamaneko dojo. And the smell of flowers, that's what I remember the most. It got really, really strong. So every time I smell that, it brings me right back to
That
that
moment.
yeah. What sucks is there's a building there now.
Of
Those
course.
trees aren't there anymore. I used to actually go there every now and then because my dad worked right there in the building right next to it. So I would go out there and I'd sit and just meditate, but I can't do that anymore, unfortunately. Jeff Prather actually had coins made. He had coins made that have those trees on it,
Huh.
and I wanted to get one really bad, but he only sold them to his, I guess the people who sucked his dick. I don't know.
That guy's
I
a
have,
whole other can of worms.
I have no idea. I don't want to know.
For sure. So you said when you first started, and I'm sure it didn't happen right away, but when you first started, you would let your racing thoughts just happen. You wouldn't try to combat them. You wouldn't try to focus on them. You'd have
Oh
a
yeah,
thought.
when I first tried doing it, yeah, I tried. I mean, I got really frustrated because I was trying to force it. I was trying to force silence, and that just made things louder and messier, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. It's kind of like learning how to roll your tongue, or let me see, learning how to roll an R, like learning how to do something like that. Like once you get it, you know how to do it. But up until that point, you're going to be a frustrated 2-year-old trying to, figure it out. But once you get it, it clicks, and you can bring yourself to that place much easier each time you do it.
So you would just say advice you'd give is just practice, but also accept the fact that you're going to have thoughts and just kind of let them do their thing. And then if you don't get it the first time, try again, keep trying, and then eventually it'll just click.
Mm-hmm.